Get him, get him.
Oh my God!
Calm down. Come here, come here, come here, come here, come here, come here.
Oh, yeah! Yeah, dude!
Dude.
6 pounds, 11 ounces. Oh,
2 points. Oh my. Limp! That's what I've been waiting for all day.
that's over 6.
True. And that one's. Oh, here he goes.
Go!
Good?
That's a big fish.
Full hand on tail. Yeah, it looks sick. Good to go.
Look how broad that thing is.
I wonder if that was the one that followed me in.
Beautiful. Oh my God. Holy God. What a beast.
Oh, wow. That might be a 4. That might be a 4.
Yeah, it's a 4. You guys show that off too. 4 pounds, 12 ounces. Holy. Oop.
Another good one.
Holy sh! What the? Is that another 6?
Could be.
It's the second giant of the day, proving that point. Oh my God! Oh my God!
Yes!
Big baits, big fish. There we go. 5 pounds, 6 ounces. Beauty! Dude, I'm not even joking. It happened again.
Kidding me?
Nope.
Is it big?
Oh! That's strong.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
That's a fat fish, dude.
4.
Holy. Dude. Holy hell, that's long.
Yeah, it is.
5, 4, 6. What?
Yeah. Just rock.
Got him. Get in here, you. There's another 6. You. That's a big fish.
6'10".
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Little fatty.
There we are. Howdy, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to do something a little different here. We're going to move that around. We're going to put this back up for the time being. You know what? Why not? We're going to throw that up there in the top corner, too, because we're split up a little bit tonight. Even though we're back to normal, we're not quite back to normal because Andrew's under the weather. So he was like, I'm going to call in from my house unless y'all want to get sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, how's everybody doing? Who do we have in the chat? Freedom Fishing, Gordy, Kevin, Andrew. Andrew's here twice.
Oh, Andrew.
Mike, Dan,
Hi.
Kevin, Dogbone, Mark, Alec, David, Kevin. Now I'm just repeating. It's all good. Hope everybody has had a wonderful last week since we last saw you guys on Monday of last week. But yeah, now we're back to normal. The only probably 2 hiccups I see coming up relatively soon would be the middle of August for me for tournament travels. So one of those Wednesdays we'll still do it. It will be kind of a we'll figure it out. And then again, not until September. So other than that, man, we're back to normal and it feels good. Not just for this,
We are so back.
but for the job too. Normalization. It's great. Love it. Cause here's the other thing. I got the rough edit done on a new video from that day up in Maine not too long ago. Like what? When the hell was that? Oh, coming up on 2 weeks ago. So I'll have that up on Friday. New fishing video. First one in like 3 months at this point. So that'll be good. I'm excited for it. And actually I enjoyed myself as I was editing it again. It was like, that's right. This is what it feels like.
Back to your roots.
Yeah, you know, to kind of be back on a normal schedule and go through kind of that creative process of I'm going to tell the story and all that and just kind of try and chop it up, moving stuff around. And then, I don't know, you know, of course, in the late nights, being up till 1 a.m. and feeling like dog crap in the morning, I was like, yeah,
This is me.
now I'm normal. Kevin, your power pole charger died. That's replaced with a Noco Genius.
Sounds about right.
The bass fishing electronics guru is in. Do tell, how garbage?
Buy Noco.
Buy Noco.
Just buy Noco.
Dude, they're good, and I haven't heard a bad thing about them.
Nope, they're not. They're great. And Powerful Charge there's been so many issues with. So,
Really?
oh yeah. Yep.
It's what it is.
So
All
buy Noco.
I
Did you
gotta
get
say,
any intel at ICAST about the new Lowrance trolling motor?
no, I didn't. And I would have loved to, and funnily enough, they were literally the booth right next to us, and I still didn't have time to go over there.
It looks interesting.
It does.
It looks like it's one of those like remote deploy.
I believe it is. So what is that? What is the Minn Kota version of that? Because the Lowrance new ones is a Recon.
Tarova?
Yeah, the Tarova.
Yeah.
So it looks very similar to that. The remote for it, I got to see that. That does look pretty spiffy.
Cool.
I mean, it looks nice. So as long as they don't have the same problems that the Ghost is currently going through with this latest generation model, then they should be fine.
I wonder if they're gonna keep the Ghost. I
Yeah.
imagine they would. They're
Dude,
too
there's a
lovely.
fucking ant on my camera. What the fuck? Did you see it crawl across the screen?
No, I didn't.
Get off! Okay.
But
Anyway.
yeah. Have you guys heard anything on your end about the new Recon?
No.
No.
Not yet. No.
I'm sure you'll be getting it in stock soon enough.
I'm sure we will.
It does look nice. I'll give him credit. It looks really nice. It just looks like a more futuristic version of the Ghost. Really,
Yeah.
Really?
It's
I
fancy.
haven't seen any pictures of it.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Not gonna lie. But all right, well, enough about that. We have a very different topic lined up for tonight. We did try to get Oliver back so we could talk about the whole keeping bass thing. But as his text told me this morning, I'm in Mexico, so that was a no. So tonight we're gonna talk about targeting anything other than bass and the benefits that you can gain from doing that, the lessons you can learn that you can take to bass fishing to make you a better angler. All the credit to Dennis on this because I wasn't really sure what to talk about tonight, and he threw that right out. I was like, oh, I mean, that could work. I don't know how much I can contribute because I rarely don't target bass. And he was like, no, it's fine. You got something to contribute. But really, this is right up both Dennis's and Andrew. I don't know why the hell I called you Alan. Dennis,
Alan!
Andrew's alley, because Andrew spent the bulk of his younger life chasing trout, and Dennis spends the bulk of his adult life being weird chasing trout.
That's true.
And I tell you what, there's a lot of lessons that I've seen come along the way from both of them that came from not bass fishing that they adapted to bass fishing that makes them better anglers than I am. I like Alec there. Alan. Alan.
Right up Alan's Alan.
Alan. So that's the plan for tonight. And I'm going to interject. I'm going to try and help out in the conversation where I can. But for the most part, I'm going to let these two guys carry it. Before we truly get started, for everybody that is here, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, thank you as always. I greatly appreciate it. For Andrew and Dennis, one of the things I noticed, because I rarely look at things like this, especially in the last year, dude, like the number of views we're getting just on the streams have been like phenomenal. Like really, really good. Not just live, but especially after the fact. More and more people are watching them after they've gone up than
I haven't
ever
seen that.
before. Yeah, no, it's been phenomenal. So for everybody that's continuing to watch and especially sharing it when we make the posts, like you guys are awesome. If not for you, then this channel probably would have died when I stopped making the regular videos recently. So greatly appreciate everybody continuing to support us. If you haven't done so yet, again, whether you're watching here on YouTube or Facebook, drop a like, please. If you're watching after the fact, after we've gone live, still leave a like and especially a comment. I respond to every single comment that's on there. It all helps us no matter what, and sharing it like on other Facebook groups and on your other socials, like all that stuff. It's hugely helpful. We appreciate everybody that goes out of their way to do that. But without further ado, let's talk about not bass fishing on the bass fishing live stream. Who wants to go first?
It's your topic. Well,
Actually, it's Dennis's topic.
nice. So I said it's your topic. I'll follow.
Well, then let me throw it this way. Let's start with like being really, really direct and translating in a way that makes sense for people that don't do anything other than bass fishing. For both of you, and Dennis, since you came up with the topic, you can go first. Sure. What is the single biggest thing that you learned from targeting other species that has helped you the most with bass fishing? And also be specific as to what species it was that you were targeting.
I would say probably the most translatable thing is how to fish current. Is that I do a lot of trout fishing, and I specifically spend, if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you see that I spend a lot of time in the winter fishing for brown trout, and I'll go all over the place, but my favorite place is down in Connecticut, and I'll go and I'll wade for brown trout, and seeing how those fish relate to structure and current and kind of how they'll position based on current, and how on a kind of day-to-day and condition to condition, how they'll move throughout the river, just in like one section of the river, and when they want to be in fast current, when they want to be in slow current, when they want to be on cover, when they're willing to just sit and fight current. I think that translates directly to bass fishing, especially obviously translates if you're fishing a river for bass, because bass behave very much in the same way. But I would say that type of fishing has had a huge impact on my success at places like Lake Champlain, where there is current. And there are some of the places that I go to around here, like the lake that's named after a person that
Yeah.
that has current in it. So a lot of the lakes around here are impoundments, and they have some level of current going through them. Like Lake Champlain always has current going through it, but even places that don't, you get wind current and you get things like that, and really, it's difficult to break down current on a lake if you don't know how to break down current, because you only get like it's inconsistent. Usually there's not a lot of really strong current on lakes, and it can be intimidating going to like the Connecticut River if you don't know how to fish it. But if you're trout fishing, the places where you would typically target them, or the places where I like to target them, are smaller rivers, and it's a lot easier to break down because there's just less opportunities, less spots for the trout to go. So you're going to run into them at some point, and it's easier to kind of put it together to realize like, oh, it's cloudy, so they're more willing to get out of the shade of cover. And then when they're active, they're willing to go into the fast water because they're looking to actively feed. But when they're in a negative mood, they're going to go and sit behind a rock where there's no current. Like, you put those things together and it directly translates to bass fishing. So that's my number one.
Okay.
Yeah. That's literally what I was going to say. Fishing current. I mean, fishing current. I mean, growing up trout fishing, that's all I did was look for current breaks, and any logs or trees or rocks or anything that's going to impede the flow of the current, they're going to be sitting right behind that, usually. Depending on whether, like you said, it's sunny or cloudy, or they'll move in and out of the shade, or move in and out of like certain areas up into the shallow closer to where they like to rest. So they usually don't travel too far once they find a little spot that they like to be in. So
yeah, I think another thing, just so we're not only talking about trout, I do a lot of,
right.
I do a lot of trout fishing. I love trout fishing, but I also do a lot of like targeting crappie, and whether it's ice fishing or open water fishing. And there's a few places that I go to where I sent you pictures of them where I've caught huge crappie in New Hampshire.
Oh yeah.
And the thing that crappie has taught me a lot is the importance of color, and kind of the importance of cadence and action of your bait and things like that, and how you can rotate through things until you get them to bite. And then once you get one to bite, then it's kind of like, okay, now it's happening and now you can catch them. But that's something where you don't get that opportunity a lot when you're bass fishing as much as you do when you're crappie fishing. When you're crappie fishing, if you find it like a tree or something that has crappie on it in the spring, they're going to be in that tree every spring, no matter what. And I have found some of those spots. So I go to spots where I know that there's crappie there, like that spot that we went to on the river. I said, like, those weren't big ones, but it was like, I guarantee you that there's going to be crappie here. And there was.
Right.
And so like there are certain spots where you know that they're going to be, and you know that every cast you're in front of them, and you have that confidence. This is coming from me. I don't have forward facing sonar or anything like that. So like, I'm not looking at the fish, but in areas like that, I have confidence, like there's crappie looking at this. So I know that the reason that I'm not getting a bite isn't because I'm not around fish. I know it's something with my presentation, or something with my color, or something with my speed. And then I can rotate through things and kind of see what is the ticket for that day. And that's something that kind of gives you little light bulb moments when you're bass fishing too, when you're going through an area and you're really thinking like there should be fish here, but I'm not getting bit. Or if you have forward facing sonar and you're seeing them and you know that there's fish there, but you're not getting bit. It's some of that confidence that you have of like, I can rotate through these kinds of things and change these kinds of things and know that I'll eventually come across the right combination, whether it's adding flash or adding speed, or getting rid of flash or getting rid of speed, or adding a bright color, making a dark color, things like that. I think that's a a big deal that is also that's helped my bass fishing a lot.
Absolutely. Andrew, I know you can add to that when it comes to
Second,
crappie fishing.
second to it. I mean, like this pond, the pond we do not speak of.
Yes, that one.
There
Yeah.
is there are two spots on that lake that I know that I can go to at any point in time, throw two different baits, and I will catch crappie. There was one spot out in the back of the lake that we actually found. It's either an old tree or a brush pile, or
Pretty sure it's a tree.
yeah, I think it's a tree too.
Because I remember Kyle talking about a tree way offshore out there, and for years
Yep.
I never knew. I thought I knew what he was talking about, and then Sorry, let me slide that over here.
Do I know this pond?
Yes, you do.
Do I like it?
I believe you do.
Oh,
Yeah. But anyway, I remember Kyle telling me about it, and for years I was like, I know what tree he's talking about, and then we came across that. I was like, oh, that's the tree he was talking
Yeah.
about, way offshore.
So we can go to that spot, throw a jerk bait, and catch crappie. And then on the other side, there is a long flat that tapers down, like tapers off. And if you throw a square bill over that, you will catch crappie almost every time. So, where the crappie are, the bass shouldn't be too far behind.
I will say, for me specifically, the only thing I've really gone out of my way to chase for the last few years that's not bass, and I owe this entirely to Andrew, is crappie. And the biggest benefit that I got from chasing those is just gaining confidence in throwing a jerkbait. Because when you get into them, I don't. It's weird, like especially in colder water, you don't have to be like dead on for color on them. I feel like their range of what's acceptable to them that they're going to hit for a jerkbait in the cold water is a lot broader than what bass would be. But the cadence is still really important. Like that is still a very, very big part of the equation. So it's nice because it's like easy training for something like that. If you are trying to get used to fishing a jerkbait and gain confidence with it, that's got to be the best way to do it. Because again, it doesn't just have to be this like one color. Like smallmouth can be really particular about it, and especially largemouth in that cold water. And you got to cycle through a couple of baits before you figure out what it is that they want. Crappie, no, there's like one of 3 or 4 colors that they'll hit, and more often than not, you just throw a yellow perch pattern, they're gonna smoke it. Either that or a shiner pattern. Like you can't go wrong with either one. Every time we see crappie in the spring in that cold water, we have one of those jerkbaits tied on almost every time, and we just wail on them. You can even do something like kind of bluegilly.
Gets me all giddy.
Oh, dude, and it's seriously,
so
it's fun. And all you gotta do is figure out the cadence after that. If you have forward-facing sonar, it's a hell of a lot easier because you can see right away how they're reacting.
Yep.
But as long as you've gone over them with 2D sonar at some point, they're not going to move too far in that colder water from what we found. Like typically wherever you find them stacked, they're kind of hanging there for the majority of the day. They're not going to move around a whole lot. And you can just wail on them as soon as you figure out what that cadence is. But I don't know. It's nice because it just removes one really big part of the equation that you need for bass. And it's a ton of fun. Like we went out last year and the year before. And we're out there like February, March down in Mass, and a couple of ponds we know are stacked with crappie, and all of a sudden we came up like just across these massive schools. We're just like, yeah, no, we're going to do this for the next 2 hours. Because once you figure it out, dude, it is seriously some of the most fun because they are so violently aggressive.
I think we
It doesn't last long, but
put over 100 fish in the boat, I think.
Oh yeah, and like for me,
solid day.
Repetition is the key to my success. I can't go out there and do something once or twice and be like, yeah, I got it, with some rare exceptions. And a big part of that comes from my BMX days, where we always said once is luck, twice is coincidence, 3 times is skill. So I've kind of carried that perspective and mantra into everything that I do, that if I feel like I really want to do well at something, then I have to be able to repeat the success multiple times. So you go out and you can catch 100 of these crappie in a single outing, and like Christ, you can catch 100 crappie in like 2 hours. If that doesn't get you confidence in what you're doing, then I don't know what else to tell you, because it's not going to get any better than that. Then from there, then you go start chasing the bass. It's like, okay, now I just got to nail down the color because I figured out everything else.
That's a really good point. That makes me think of when we went striper, like we go striper fishing every winter.
Yeah,
holdovers. But that is the first time we went, or the first time I went with you. That is the first time I ever threw an umbrella rig.
Yeah.
An A rig. And like we crushed them on it, and now I
So
have a bunch
much
of
fun.
right now I have a bunch of confidence in it. But that's something where like I would never have thrown that outside of that situation because
It's huge.
like it's huge, it's intimidating. It doesn't seem like obviously you can't really use it correctly here, but like in Vermont and stuff, there's ways you can use it. But still, like it's something where I would have had zero confidence in that. But there, where I'm reeling it through fish and you're getting bit on it 50 times in a day, it's like, all right, this thing works.
Yeah. It's great that you bring that up because there's been a couple times where we've gone down there and you literally couldn't do anything wrong. You just reel it through and that's good and it's fun because they're hitting it. It's like, oh, cool, I'm throwing this thing. But at that point, days like that, they're kind of brainless. Like you can't do anything wrong. You just chuck and wind. But there's been plenty of days we've gone out there too where like you really had to finagle that damn thing and figure out the cadence even with an umbrella rig to get them to bite.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then there's been plenty of other days we've gone down there. This is the only other bycatch we've gone down and specifically targeted like a lot. And some of those days that A-rig bite, they will not even sniff it. But then that's when, and some of you people are going to laugh at this, that's when the drop shot rod comes out. And you're rolling with 6 or 8 pound line and a 3/8 ounce weight and a big old fluke on that light head. And you're basically like, I realized this as I was thinking about this show like an hour or two ago, that we were essentially doing like the hover rig. We were Twitch minnow for stripers like for the last 4 or 5 years. And it works phenomenal.
Yeah, it does.
It's awesome.
But yeah, go.
I have another point that I want to make. I think that the biggest thing that helps me targeting other species of fish is that it takes like the pressure off. Like for me personally, I've bass fished my entire life, so 35 years plus, and obviously I'm not like the number one bass fisherman in the world.
You are in my heart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
You're
pretty
like,
good.
well, he's 1A, you're 1B, I guess.
But like I've done it enough that if I'm out there under conditions that are not extreme, like if I go out there in March and the water's 39, like I don't have high expectations. But if I go out there under normal conditions when the water is like 47 or higher, I expect that I'm going to do something. Like I expect that I'm going to catch something, I'm going to figure something out. And almost always I do. Like very, very, very rarely. I don't think I ever get skunked when it's not like water below 42 degrees.
Yep.
But and if I have a day when I'm out there and I'm not figuring them out and I'm not doing well and I can't figure out what's going wrong, it frustrates me and it makes it not as fun for me. Because it's like I should know this, I should know how to do this, I should know how to figure them out, and like I'm doing all the things that I think, and like it started like I get reeling, and then it's like it loses some of its fun.
Yep.
And I feel like fishing for other species is kind of like my way to reset. Like a couple weeks ago, I went fly fishing for trout, and I keep saying like that was like the most fun that I've ever had because I went in there thinking like, I'm probably not going to catch anything because I'm not good at fly fishing. I'm not like a crazy trout fisherman. And I'm going in something where it's like very technical fly casting and like a drift boat. And we ended up catching like a ton of trout. And it was like, this is amazing because I had no expectations going into it. Like I caught one fish. I ended up catching like 10 fish, but like the first fish I caught, I was like, today's a success. Like that, like I landed a fish on fly fishing on a drift boat. Like I'm good. And then the rest of the day, we just kept catching them over and over again. And it was like, I can't believe that this is happening.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like it's those kinds of things. It's the same thing when we go saltwater fishing. Like when we all go striper fishing, you catch a striper and it's like, okay, I did it. And then the rest of it is just like, this is amazing. Right, yeah, like there's no pressure. Like you don't go out there expecting like I better catch 30 stripers today or I'm gonna be pissed at myself.
Right.
Like you go out there thinking like I hope I catch a striper, and then when you do catch like 50, it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, like
amazing.
the last trip out, like yeah, we all got on one like good bite, and you and I didn't capitalize for the first probably like maybe like 15 minutes of that first wave, and Andrew and freaking Kyle are just wailing on him. And but then we both landed our first one. It's like, all right, cool. And then there was I think like a 5-minute lull for all four of us, and we were like, okay, no, that was good. We got a couple of keepers in the boat. Everybody caught. We had fun. And then just all of a sudden, and in like 2 hours, like, holy shit, would we just catch 50?
Yeah.
It was like that
but
exceeded all expectations.
I've grinded for days and days without even a bite striper fishing. So going out and doing that, it's like, oh, finally. It's like you don't understand until you. And it's like going out bass fishing every day for like a week and not even getting a bite, and then you go out, you have some guide bring you out, and fucking you catch 100 goddamn bass in a day. You kind of need it once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny that Anthony makes that comment because I literally was wearing a polo and I was like, I gotta change this before I go out. Like somebody's gonna say something about, ooh, is that silk? So I changed it before I came here.
I almost said something when you walked in.
So I'm really bad about work clothes, and I haven't bought new work clothes in ages. But having gone on ICAST, I was like, you know what? I don't have anything to like wear out after for like dinners and stuff. So I went out and bought 2 nice shirts. I mean, one was just a polo, but it was a nice polo. And I was wearing that today for work, and I was like, shit, maybe I'll keep this on tonight because Dennis usually like dresses up when we do these things.
We should have like a classy one where we'll wear suits or something. And
Oh,
I wear a suit.
talking.
I like that.
I don't own a suit. I'll make it work.
I love wearing suits.
Andrew likes wearing suits.
We're gonna have. Don't forget your tie. Skinny tie, fat tie. I'm a skinny tie kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm a skinny tie.
Yeah.
You can't wear a fat tie.
Bow tie. Andrew's bow tie guy.
I don't want to be a pirate.
I'll just show up as a pirate.
All right, what do we get?
Wait. Do you remember that? Oh, we were out ice fishing. I got a picture of him actually smiling for once, but the sun was in his eyes, so he was kind of like one eye was closed.
Oh, nice.
And I photoshopped a pirate hat and a patch on his eye. Came out pretty good. All right. Brian, speaking of current, there's been many times on, say, Pawtuckaway where it's been stale and hot. Then the wind picks up later in the day and creates a surface current, and the largemouth will act like a trout on a batch of lilies and be on the windward side facing the wind, same as shallow isolated rocks. I had a really hard time reading that for some reason, and there was nothing wrong with the way it was written. Just my brain was dumb.
Well, you just learned how to read. So.
Yeah, that was my first time.
Yes,
But that's exactly like that's
Yeah.
that's the perfect example. That's exactly it. And that's something like if you're used to trout fishing, then you know how they will position on cover when there's wind or when there's current or when there's shade. And obviously bass fishing translates to trout fishing too, because if you know that stuff from bass fishing, you translate it to trout fishing too. It's just comparing or adding current into the mix is something that I think you will learn 100 times faster if you just spend a little bit of time trout fishing and figure out how to catch trout in different conditions, because you have to deal with current. They're always in current, so you have to deal with the current.
you'll be out there for like 10 minutes, and it'll click. Be like,
Right.
oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. Oh, this is how I do it. Right. And you'll learn in a day what it would take you 5 years to learn bass fishing, because you don't see that situation in bass fishing nearly as much. And in trout fishing, it's there constant. Like that is the constant. So you just learn it exponentially faster.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because we rarely fish rivers. So when we go out there, it's like the first thing I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I feel so weird. And Andrew lights him up. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just, it's trout fishing, man. I'm just like fishing the current. I don't know how to fish current. I don't know how to fish trout. So let me out here. I'm over here. Everything's outside my comfort zone. I hate it. The only time I like the rivers when we're out there in the winter.
Yeah.
And they're just all stacked in that, like in the multiple holes. And you just, well, the current's going about 0.3 miles per hour, but we're going to drag that anyway.
Yep.
That is the best blade bait fishing ever. Is that I love that.
I need to get my blade bait bite going a lot better, because I used to be like really good with it. In the last 3 years, I have done really bad with it. I'm pretty sure I'm fishing too heavy of a rod.
I used to never throw it, and this year I grinded the hell out of it.
Yeah, and you caught some big fish too.
Yeah.
My funniest moment watching you do that was the day I caught my previous PB smallie this past December. And you're using a rod that had, it was, I'd probably say it was a fast action, because it broke at like the 6th guide down, I feel like but it was really abrupt with how it broke. It was almost like a trout rod. And you can see it every time he'd go, and the rod tip would go every time. And then the third time he went up, and the rod tip he started here and it stayed there the whole time.
Yep.
And it just won't fold. And he's like, Oh, it was a 4 3/4 largie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That was definitely cool.
So if there's one thing that I like, just kind of recapping everything we've talked about, the biggest thing for me targeting non-species is being able to find a bait that I know works for other species, that I want to work for bass, that I just couldn't get the confidence in. And once I stuck that jerk bait on hundreds of crappie, it was like, okay, I get it. And it got me most of the way there to figure out what I needed to. Then from there, it's just unlocking the color combination.
Mm-hmm.
What about for you, Andrew? If you had to pick, like, let's go that route. Like, specifically a bait that you gained a lot of confidence with on non-bass species that you took the bass. So it's like, okay, I get it. I can do this over here. Is there one? I feel like for you, it's more of like a
12-inch glide bait
mantra
I mean, I'm trying to
perspective.
reenact a trout with a glide bait,
That's true.
or reenact a crappie, or reenact a bluegill.
You didn't tell him about the thing you almost caught on a glide in Champlain, but.
Oh,
dude!
Thought's gone.
Was it
See the ant?
Oh yeah, just
Get the fuck out of here. Why
the
is
highlight of the stream
get your
today?
shit together.
whatever?
What was it? Was it a gar?
No, it was probably a 10 or 12 pound bowfin.
Oh, dude, came
Dude,
right
its
up to his
head
glide.
was like as wide as my glide was long.
Oh, that's
It was
awesome.
Almost a 10-inch glide. Dude, it was huge.
Bowfin is so awesome.
And it followed the glide bait right out to the boat.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was nutty.
Mm-hmm.
See, here I am usually like, oops, I did not mean to do that. I derailed the conversation. I didn't mean to do that. Usually it's Andrew that goes off on a tangent like
That's
that.
true.
He's like, oh, I remembered a fish catch.
It's the only thing I remember.
But do you have a bait like I do with the jerk bait that you did really well with, that you took the bass? You're like, okay, yeah, I get it. I need to cue up the Jeopardy music on one of these buttons.
Seriously, I don't.
Ding, 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 ding.
I don't know.
I got one waiting in the wings.
Honestly, I don't.
Is that the phrase? Waiting in the wind? Waiting in the wings?
Actually,
it's
you know
waiting
what?
for
I
us.
think blade baiting. Because that one day we were out and I was blade baiting up white perch,
Oh yeah, I forgot
I'll
about
do it.
that.
I'll do it.
and
That was very early on you trying to get used to using that thing.
yeah. So, I guess blade bait.
No, I mean, yeah,
That's fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fair.
you wailed on a bunch of white perch and yep, okay, makes sense now.
Yeah.
I forget where the hell we were when you did that.
I don't know.
But that was only like 3 years ago. That's about when you first picked up. Oh, was it the Vermont Brownie Factory? No.
No, it was in Mass.
Hmm.
It's where we went.
Oh. Oh, that's the place where yeah.
Steve caught that 6 1/4 in his little fucking green John boat.
Yeah, six and a half.
Is that the place you kept trying to get me to go?
It might be.
Where like you can't park there, and I was like, "Am I gonna get towed?"
No.
and you were like, "Probably."
No. This is, you should come down to this spot. It's fun, and it's north of the canal, so it saves you a little bit of driving.
Yes, okay, yeah.
And it's fun. There's a lot of there's big fish in there. There's actually really big smallmouth in there too. I haven't stumbled across one, but I know plenty of people that have, like including 5 pound smallies, and not that long ago either.
Oh.
Yep. But yeah, that place was stacked with white perch, and you made it work.
Mhm.
Oddly enough, I think the white perch even helped me a little bit with my Demiki rig, getting used to that. Because like, I always knew it was such a good thing for suspended smallies in the warmer weather, and then especially in the colder weather. And I was out scouting for the high school team, and I remember seeing like all the smelt, and then I wasn't sure what else I was seeing, and I could see just these faint boomerangs coming across out of nothing. This was just 2D sonar. I had nothing else. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's definitely smelt. I'm not sure what that is. It's some other bait fish. I'm pretty sure that's smallmouth. And I caught 1 or 2 white perch, just dropping the Demiki down right below my feet and holding it there. But I went way down. I was down to like 50, but I was probably down 45 feet. All the white perch, which I'm at this point now, I know they were just a few feet below that. And then all the smelt were down at like 55, and the bottom of the lake was at 65. But then I saw the boomerangs up higher. I'm like, well, okay, well, hang on, let me try this again. So I caught 2 or 3 white perch, and then I brought the Demiki rig way up and only hung it at 25 feet. And all of a sudden, boom, smallie, boom, smallie. I was like, oh my God, I understand. I learned. And dude, since then, like, I don't put the damn thing down in cold water. Demiki is just my thing.
Yeah,
And I've
that's
only
pretty
really
cool.
been fishing for like 4 years now. But oh my God, we've caught some big fish on that.
My first time I ever used it. You're like, just try it. I don't even remember how big the fish was.
I think it was a 4 3/4 smallie.
It's crazy how much you guys remember the weights of specific fish that you caught.
But things like that tend to be memorable. So like that was an easy one because that was one of our better days. We were out fishing in the snow in Vermont. Like it was snowing pretty good. There was already some good snow down. And one thing I'll never forget learning when I was like really on the internet 15 years ago, like freaking reading everything I get my hands on, was when the hills are white, the smallies will bite. Oh my God, is that ever true? Every time we've been out there when it snowed, we have wailed on them. And that day was no exception. And I forgot how many fish I already caught in the Demiki. And I was working one down at 50 feet. And I was pulling them up. And I finally had already given him a rod. He had it in his hand. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull up just a little bit. I want you to drop. And he drops it, and it got down like 10 feet, and I just burned my bait up, and the fish came up a little bit just as his bait was coming down. And then they just met, and I only think he held there for 5 seconds, and you just see the rod go, leans into it, 4 3/4 smallie.
That's awesome.
Same day, I threw a 5-inch spark shot on a 3/4 ounce football head, caught it in like 50 feet of water, and caught a 4.5 pound smallie.
Nice.
No, that was, dude, the 5-inch spark shot? I
Yeah,
thought that was your PB. The first of your 2 PBs that day. That was a 5.2.
oh maybe.
Something like that. He caught a 5. I think it was a 5.2.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5.2 and then a 5.26 or 5.28. I forget whatever your current PB is right now.
I don't remember, something like that.
But it was on that 5-inch spark shot.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Given the water was like 45, I think.
Yeah, it was cold.
That's how you want it at that place, though.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
A certain elite angler was there the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Milliken.
Really?
Yeah.
How does
How
he
do
know?
you do?
I don't know, but the other place not too far from there that we have frequented a few times, he was there today. So he hit the 1-2 punch.
Oh shit.
Oh well, it is what it is.
Cool.
Okay, sorry. So I had jerk bait. He had blade bait. What about you?
Well, I already said the umbrella rig, but
Oh yeah, that's
I think the other thing, I use square bills a lot, but I for a long time had never used the ones that are like 0-foot divers that are basically like wake baits. They're like a square bill wake bait.
yeah.
And I had a day, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, in March on the Cape, and it was at that pond that I always go to where there's a very shallow section in one of it where the whole thing is 3 feet deep and the weeds go up to about 6 inches below the surface. And and I got back in there and it was just jam-packed with rainbows. Like it was jam-packed with rainbow trout. And because that was the warmest water in the area.
Sean, is
in the lake.
that Dick Cove?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you know the place. Yeah. So I went back in there and I tried like I don't know. I tried every trout lure I could think of. I tried little tiny spinners and spoons and stuff like that. And like I caught like 2, but I was getting stuck in the weeds and like it wasn't efficient. So I was like, I'm just gonna fish for them how I think that you would fish for bass back in here. And I looked at all my crankbaits and I found some square bills that only dive down like 6 inches, and it was like, this is perfect. And I must have caught like 25 rainbows on that throughout the day, just going through that area, and like big rainbow, like the biggest rainbows that I've caught. And that gave me like all the confidence in the world. And I use that a lot now at Champlain too, when I'm in that same situation where the grass is up really tall. But that was like, this is the intended way to use this lure, is like in this exact situation, fishing it this exact way. And like, I have a huge amount of confidence in it now because of that.
Talking about a very niche application that like all of a sudden you found that magical, like, holy shit, this is amazing.
Yeah. This is why this exists.
Yeah. Now I get it. That's got to be like the single most common thing about this too. Like going from bass and like, I need a break or whatever. Let's go do something different. You go do it and you pick up something and like, oh right. Oh,
Yeah.
it's like this giant freaking lighthouse of a light bulb goes off. You're like, yep, we're gonna have fun with this next time we go out for bass.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Like I can't think of anything else that I can contribute to this conversation because I rarely target anything that's not bass. But I was thinking about this earlier, and you said you've been fishing basically your whole life doing this, and I have too, but not the way I do now. It wasn't until I was like 22 years old that, you know, at that point, my first 22 years, I'd been fishing my entire life, but I've been fishing a Texas rig worm on the bank. That's it. That's all I'd ever done until I was 22. And I remember the defining turning point. My dad and I were out on otter and beating the bank and looking out and watching guys in the middle smoking them nonstop. And I'm like, Dad, maybe we should go out there. He's like, no, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Okay. And I like almost stopped fishing because I was watching these guys catch fish after fish after fish. And it turns out all they were doing was throwing Senkos in the middle.
Yeah.
But the fish were out there.
But it works.
They weren't on the bank.
Right.
And I didn't even know what a Senko was until they told me. Again, a 4-inch rubber worm. That's all I ever fished till I was 22. And I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. And that was the turning point where like that week, that next day I went home and I started reading everything I could get my hands on. And that's why I picked up a jig and a crankbait. The first two things I learned beyond the Texas rig. So for me, like
Good things.
I haven't reached that point yet where I like kind of burned out on that, like I should be able to figure it out thing. I just, at this point, it's like, okay, well, I learned something today. Either I could have done this differently that I didn't try, or that particular pond in this particular day was just off. And it is what it is. Because rarely do we not cover enough water that we go home and we're like
this past weekend.
Yeah. We covered 67 miles on Lake Champlain on Saturday.
Oh my God.
Oh, dude. When I said I was going out scouting, I meant it.
Ugh.
And I went and mapped it. I was like, oh, yeah, no. There was no like, well, we said scouting, but we fished like 3 spots. No, dude, we scouted.
Did you
Yeah.
find good stuff?
Yeah, in my opinion, even though we didn't get many bites off the spots, the stuff that we found was good.
You know, it's the juice.
It looked good. Like, dude, we found some, like, there was one particular rock pile we found that nobody was near. And I was like, oh. And then he called up some giants in the glide. I was like, okay, that's marked.
When's the tournament?
I was throwing glide in 40 feet of water.
Yeah, he was.
On a Carolina rig?
No,
Oh.
nah, just a glide bait.
I threw it quite a bit, but I only tried one bait on it because I wanted to try something different. So that was the other half of it too. Like even a lot of these spots we went through, I was specifically trying to throw things I like normally wouldn't, but it was close enough to what I normally would. Just like
still
trying to
comfortable.
find like I'm going as different as I can on this. And then once we spent the last like 2 or 3 hours of the day, just like, okay, let's go fish spots we know. We did a lot better. It was still slow, but we still did pretty good.
Yeah.
All things considered. But yeah, no.
A slow Lake Champlain day is like a spectacular anywhere else day.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we still had, I forget what we had our best 5. It wasn't glorious, but it wasn't abysmal. So I'll take it. And the one, I mean, we intentionally didn't go fish stupid dirt shallow like everybody else was, even though the water's still a little bit high. Because I'm looking ahead 3 weeks from when I did that.
Right.
And I'm assuming that the water's only going to come down between now and then.
You would think.
I mean, right now it looks like it might stay up. And that's fine if it does, because I know I can go up and beat the crap out of the bank because I've done that in the majority of my life. And I know other spots where I should be going to look. And
Yeah.
I'll be okay.
Yep.
But my thought was, if it's all normal, I want to look in spots in that like 8 to 20 range. Because I don't have hardly enough largemouth spots up there in those ranges. So it's like, that's pretty much all we did all day. Like 8 to 20. That was
So
it.
you were targeting largemouth?
Yep. All in northern end, which is not something you normally do. But and I swear to God, I was doing that not because of the Bass Regional. It was because of the tournament last year at the BFL, where I had a game plan, then the wind kicked up, and I couldn't go to the vast majority of my smallmouth spots, but I was in areas where largemouth probably would have been, but I didn't fish through any of it. So I wasn't even sure if they were going to be there. And I'm like, oh, I can't really, I'm better off rotating these same 6 spots I found that I know have smallmouth versus trying to figure out productive water for the largemouth. So thinking about that and knowing I was doing the BFL this year, since then, I was like, I'm going to make sure I go up there and spend like 2 days where I'm just looking for largemouth spots in the northern end.
Yeah.
And then the Bass Regional goes off and it goes off on shallow larges. I'm like, Okay, well, I'm glad I decided that was part of my game plan because that gave me more confidence to know it was worth my time because, I mean, clearly they're up there.
Right.
But the consistency that they bit, I don't know if it's just because the water was high or if some guys just figured out something. I think it was more that the water was high than anything. I don't know.
High water on Lake Champlain is an awesome combination.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to that 126 fish day. No, the 102 fish day that we had up there, and we were spot locked in that one spot.
The spot that I like?
Yeah. And dude, we were there for like
You're welcome.
3. No, thank you, for 3 hours, and it just wouldn't stop. We were like, we hit 1 5-minute lull. We're like, okay, well, maybe it's time to go. And all of a sudden, we start cracking again. Like, no, never mind.
It was like
Locks working overtime.
it was like there was a rock 1.5 foot out from there, and like you had to get it in that one little spot about that big. And every time we cast right in there, it would bounce off a rock, thump.
Oh,
Awesome. I saw Northeast Bass Fishing. I saw that same thing. There's a place in Vermont, in Northeast Vermont, that got like 8 inches of rain in like the last couple of days.
They got 8.1 something inches of rain in 6 hours.
Crazy.
It's the highest total ever recorded. They're calling it a 1 in 1,000 year event.
Connecticut River's gonna be ripping.
Yes, it is. So yeah, Mark, you're right. And that was north of Lebanon, New Hampshire, St. Johnsbury.
St.
No,
Johnsbury.
it's something else. It's right on. It's very close to the. I think it actually is the Vermont, New Hampshire border. But it's actually, I think it was north of Littleton, New Hampshire. It was over up there, and that was what, 2 nights ago, and they got hammered with rain again. And then there it is. Then Boat Potato, Champlain ain't dropping that. Dude, if it doesn't, not a problem, because I'm going to be up there for 3 days before the tournament actually starts. So if that ends up being like the thing, the water's still really high, then awesome. Then I will spend 3 days going and scouting based on that, and I love my chances.
Anyway,
oh yeah, I love my chances.
Those are the same places that we always fish when we're up there. You just go further up.
Yep, yeah, because that's the thing. The last this is our 5th year that you've brought me up there, or 4th? I think it's the 5th straight season.
Yeah.
That we've gone up there, and at that point the water is always high, and it's like beautiful pre-spawn, so they're all up super shallow, and like I know that. So
I want to come up for that trip. I want to come up for that trip next year.
Oh, dude, you have to.
Still make it a yearly trip up there with you guys.
Oh, well, you're supposed to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, because you're gonna live in Florida.
Yeah. But what he was saying, he was like, "I'll just fly right into Burlington. You pick me up." I was like,
that's
"Done."
not bad. Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. Or even if he flies into Manchester, it's 20 minutes from my house.
Right.
If we have to, I'll go pick him up. He can spend the night here, and then we hit the road the next day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Drop you off in the airport on my way home.
Perfect.
Lyndonville, Jeremy, thank you. That's what it was. St. Johnsbury got destroyed. That's what Kevin said. Okay.
My cousin probably got hammered up there then.
Yeah, it was bad. And then yes, Dan, thank you. What kind of a parting thought here before we go? I'd like to hijack for a minute and congratulate Mark Burgess with Big East Bass Fishing on YouTube. Champion, sub his page, please. So Big East Bass Fishing on YouTube. Mark Burgess, former Elite Series angler, just an all-around wicked nice guy. He is honestly one of like the kindest, nicest, easiest, friendliest people to talk to you will ever meet. And dude just loves talking fishing too. And he just won the Bass Regional up on Lake Champlain last week. So hats off to him with 2 mega bags. He had high 21. I can't remember. I think it was high 21 pounds for day 2. His day 1 was so-so. I think he was in 17th. And why I say so-so, it's still pretty damn good.
Pretty good, yeah.
But then high 21-pound bag on day 2, and then wrap it up, I think, with 22 pounds, 15 ounces, if memory serves correct, for day 3. And if memory serves correct, also, it was the second heaviest bag of the event. There was a 24-pound bag on day 1.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
And he had a 6-pound, 15 ounce in that.
Largemouth?
Yep. All largemouth. So he was just shy of 5-pound average, which is just phenomenal up there. But hats off to Mark for winning, and I'm glad, again, you brought that up. 1, so we can congratulate him, and 2, to prep you guys, because next week we're going to have Mark on to talk all about that. So that's probably going to be a much longer show than normal, because I want to go over as much as he's willing to talk about on that. Not for my benefit, but for everybody else's. That's a big deal that he won that tournament. Like that is, dude, that thing was full of nothing but hammers.
Mm-hmm.
That was a hell of a tournament. So to win that, or even do it remotely well, like Dan Tavilla out of New Hampshire, he had second, he had first. He was in first going into day 3, and then ended up coming up 15 ounces shy, finishing in second. But what a hell of a bag for him. He's one of the few guys who went out and just stuck to smallmouth. I think he had a couple of mixed bags, but for the most part, he was all
Yeah.
smallies. So, like,
Coming in second with that's pretty good. Very good.
yeah. And again, only 15 ounces shy. I mean,
Yeah.
they were still, I think all the top 5 at least were averaging well over 20 pounds a day.
It's awesome.
Yeah, ridiculous. So congrats to Mark, and we'll have him on next weekend. Yeah, 17.6, 21 and change, and 22.12. That's what it was. That was close.
We miss anything in here? Any questions?
There was one starred one. Oh, that was an old one. That was way earlier, so that's gone. No, I think we got everything. We covered everything. Like, so kind of a light topic, right? Like there wasn't a whole lot to talk about because our non-bass fishing experiences, even between the three of us, really isn't that much.
Not that much.
But the importance of the lessons we learned from that have been significant in some way, shape or form for all three of us, and how much it's benefited us as bass anglers. And the one last parting thought, at least from my perspective on this, the one most common thing I've seen from guys like Andrew that grew up trout fishing and then went into bass fishing, they tend to be a lot better and a lot more consistent at catching bigger fish, like especially bigger largemouth.
And patient.
But and it's exactly that. It's because of your patience that was already hammered into you that you had to have for trout fishing. Taking that to bass fishing always results in bigger fish a lot more often. So, I mean, I forget what pro had said it. Was it Gary Klein? He said, speed kills. Did you just hear a scream?
I heard a scream.
I should go check on that. But that was one of the other things. I'm going to check on that while you guys kind of wrap this up. Because that sounded violent.
I think it was like a scream of craziness, not pain.
Hopefully not. Jesus.
I hope it wasn't pain. There might be a house emergency going on here.
Uh-oh. So we're gonna have to wrap it up.
We're gonna have to wrap it up. But yeah, I think a big thing that I want to tell KVD that speed kills. It's true.
Yeah, I mean,
a big thing
There's an
that
outlier to
that I
everything.
want to just drive home here too is that it's worth trying fishing for things besides bass. Like I imagine most of the people on the chat are people that live in this area in New England, in New Hampshire or Mass or in this region, and we have very good bass fishing, but we have very good saltwater fishing for stripers. We have very, very good trout fishing. If you go to places like Champlain, you have bowfin, you have them in the river, you have things like tench, walleye. Right. I went walleye fishing this winter and was able to catch a walleye from shore, and there's a lot of opportunities to catch things that we don't normally fish for because everybody's so focused on bass, and like you're overlooking a lot of other species. Like, when the three of us are going to go jigging for lake trout later in the summer in August, like there's a lot of opportunities that just, the more you know in general about catching fish and figuring out different species of fish in different situations, it helps you just become more well-rounded. And the more well-rounded you are, the more you can respond to different situations, and the more efficiently you can figure out different situations and conditions.
Yep.
That's how I do it.
Very well said. Yeah, sorry, Scott. You missed out on all the crappie talk. Pickerel over 20 inches, it's fun. Yes, Anthony, I will agree with that. That's true. I think about that, like, dude, how big was that pickerel I caught down in Mass? On
Big.
that jerk bait. Is it a 5-pounder?
I think so.
Dude, one of the fattest pickerel I've ever seen.
I caught on Champlain, not a pickerel, but on Champlain, actually, it was a year where the water was super, super high. I caught a pike that was 17 pounds. And
Holy hell.
That's the kind of stuff that you catch when you go, like, I'm going to do something besides bass fishing. And
Yeah.
You would never catch that if you only bass fished. And like, that's the kind of thing where it's like, why would you not target something like this?
I'm not saying bass fishing gets boring, but it gets boring sometimes. And I like to switch it up for sure.
I will say it gets boring for me in the winter. Driving down to the Cape, being the only option, and doing the same goddamn thing. Dragging a tiny swim bait or Tamiki rigging over their head.
Yep.
Or a hair jig. over and over and over. And what's the weather going to be like? Cold and windy and overcast.
Yep.
Cool.
I try to like throw
Not this
myself
year.
curveballs.
Fuck
like,
you.
like that's why when I went out last week, it was like, I'm going to a place that I've never been to. I'm not going to look at a map. I'm not going to do anything. I didn't look at the species of fish. I didn't look at a map. I didn't do any ahead of time research. And I went with Andrew, different Andrew.
I texted you asking where you went. You never answered, you bastard.
I'll tell you. But we went there and we were like, we're just gonna go. Like we'll just wing it. And we ended up, I think we caught like, I don't know, what did I say? Like 34 or something like that.
You
and
guys
like
hammered them.
we ended up like smoking them. We didn't catch anything crazy. Like we didn't get any giants, but it was like, it was cool going to a place where I didn't know what it looked like and I didn't know what to expect. And it was like, I'll just figure it out while I'm there. And to top it off, that was the day where it was like pea soup fog. And you literally couldn't, like, we launched and we were like, I have no idea what the rest of the lake looks like. I can only see like 10 feet in front of me. So like, I'm just going to go.
I'm really curious to know where you went.
I'll tell you. Off the air.
Yeah, I'm curious. Does it begin with an M?
What?
Does it begin with an M?
No.
Okay. There's a spot where our buddy Travis went to years ago that I keep thinking about we should go to. It's not that far. It's like an hour from here. And it could be a lot of fun. But anyway. All right, last one from Mark. I think we've discussed this before, but are there any musky lakes in New Hampshire? No. Nope, there's very few even pike lakes in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Champlain has muskie, supposedly. People catch them. Not me. People that aren't me catch them.
Dude, the more we think about it, or thought about it at that time, we're both positive there was a muskie that came up and hit his friggin' glide. Yep, hammer it down, bud.
It was massive.
Yeah.
It wasn't like St. Lawrence.
No. But
tits, freaking giant.
It would still be awesome to catch one, even if it was small. I'd be happy.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't small
cross off
by any
the list.
means, but
no, and that's the thing that like more than anything, the color that we could see, like 100% musky, the roundness of it, that was the biggest thing. Like, dude, that thing's head was wide. It was dumb.
It had a 9 3/4 inch glide bait sideways in its mouth, and it was like the same width of its fucking head.
How'd you lose it? What happened?
It just didn't get hooked. I don't know, honestly. It had the whole bait in its mouth.
That sounds like operator error.
I set the hook that time.
Yeah, that's what made me turn around because I was looking the other way and I heard, oh, Jesus Christ.
There's a place
Huge.
up in Maine, like the very, very tippy top of Maine that has muskie, and you go fly fishing for them, and that's like
That sounds
that's
like a lot
high
of
on my
fun.
list to do, but it's like an 8-hour drive to get up there. But
Yeah, it's
sounds
not
awesome.
a short drive whatsoever. There's a river up there that
that's
tank
what it is.
smallies and tank muskie.
Yeah.
So
We should do that. We should do that before Andrew. Andrew, we should do that. Maybe we probably won't do it before you leave. We should do that. Like fly back up here, and we'll do that.
We'll do that next year for sure.
maybe we can convince Tyler Williams, be like, hey man, if we drive up there, because I know he's been up there, like, would you take us out and just kind of show us around? I think he would.
Yeah, he might.
Take us to your backyard. Let us play a little bit. I can promise him that whatever we see, 99.5% of all the people watching any of our videos are not going to make that drive.
That's true. That's true.
Nope, they won't.
I think they caught a 50-incher too.
Holy shit!
So it was 51 2 weeks ago. Yeah. I see a lot of pictures of, not a lot, but I see pictures of people catching on my Champlain. I've never caught one.
Damn. More all the time. Kiddo just one up north was 51 inches 2 weeks ago. God
Awesome.
damn. You know what? I was and still am happy with the 44-inch pike I caught on Champlain last year, but boy, oh boy, I would love to catch a 50-inch muskie at some point. Oh, our buddy TJ just caught a 50-incher up on the St. Lawrence last week.
Did he really?
Yep.
Son of a bitch.
He had the camera rolling,
Where?
and he was able to, I don't know, somewhere on the St. Lawrence River.
St. Lawrence.
And he got one screenshot of it still on the bump board right before the thing gave one giant kick and off the back of the boat.
Yeah.
It's the only picture he got of it.
Damn.
A-rig.
No shit.
That would be
Okay.
the only time that I would be like, I would hook into one and be like, I'm keeping this one. This one's cutting in the boat.
Yeah.
Giant rod, giant line, big old friggin' metal harness hooked to its face.
Right.
You're coming home with me.
Dude, my DoorDash showed up like a half hour ago.
And then you know what? It's perfect because it is 9 o'clock and I want to keep this to an hour so we can wrap it up. So for everybody that's still here, thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. If you haven't done so, before you go, please drop a like on the stream. We will be back next Wednesday with Mark Burgess, the winner of the Bass Regional up on Lake Champlain last week. We're going to talk all about that. It'll be the same time as always. But Andrew, while you still can, man, while you're still here, you do it. Don't screw it up this time.
We will see you next time, as always, at Wednesdays. I fucked it up. We'll see you guys next week. It's scary.
Oh, that's the best.
Probably.
Anthony, I love you.
We'll see you guys next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Like always, at 8 p.m. at Reel Nothern Bass at 8 p.m. at YouTube /
What time is it?
8 p.m.
Oh, okay.
We'll see you next week. We love you all.
Have a good night, everybody.